So I told you I'd take you around this end. What am I looking here, Aaron? You might say. Well, this is the end of the lead screw, which is doing nothing right now. Technically, I can engage the carriage, and then it becomes impossible to turn. But yeah, it's not connected to anything. It should have a whole gear train here, but doesn't right now. Let me show you why, for which I shall move the camera again. So, excuse the mess of stuff behind me. Anybody want some headlights for an R56 Mini? What should be in the end of that lathe is a bunch of these framing gears. So that's a 75 tooth. And this, which carries, that way around I think, carries two gear sets. The gears all run on this little spindle here, and so inside a pair of gears, this is two separate gears, is a central spindle frame. It's really hard. There you go, with a keyway and a key. The key keeps the two gears spinning together, but together they're free to rotate on that spindle. You stack sets of gears on the end of the lathe to give you whatever desired feed rate you want. Now, my other lathe that I just sold had a gearbox, a quick change gearbox, which was brilliant. But to be honest, I never really used it. They're imperial lathes, and the quick change gearbox is brilliant if you want to do screw cutting. Specifically in that case, brilliant if you want to cut imperial threads. I don't really cut imperial threads. Most stuff I work with is metric, except for some of the Jaguar stuff on the Cobra that's imperial, because it's a sort of bitzer in the early 90s. It's still bits of late 70s and bits of early 90s. So when I got rid of that, I'd intended to move the gearbox to this lathe. This was the better of the two lathes in terms of, backlash and the ways not being like bananaed out through wear at one end. Although this is a much earlier lathe, I think 1950 something. But I didn't. And when I first tried to use the power feed on the carriage on this lathe, so there's only one power feed. There's no power feed on the cross slide, or definitely no power feed on the compound. It's way too small. It was set up for imperial screw cutting. So I just motored down my work and cut a nice spiral pattern in. And I had to hand cut everything. When I went to investigate why, this was set up for maybe 26 threads per inch, I think. There's a big table in the book, in the manual. Tells you what gears you need to put where. The coarse feeds, so like 26 threads an inch and up, so up to like 8 threads an inch, I only need one set of gears, hence one spindle. All of the fine feeds need 2 sets of gears, which is why there are 2 slots on this thing. Unfortunately, I only have one of these. So I have another one on order from RDG Tools. It's not the same exact design, but it should be compatible. I have a complete set of gears. I just had no way of putting them on the end to make it cut like a fine thread, like, I don't know, 4th thou per revolution or 3 thou per revolution, somewhere in that region. That'd be a nice, decent, all-purpose cut. Once that arrives, I'll set it back up for power feed, and then I can power feed along at work. To be honest, boring something like these 2 things out, like they're only that thick, you don't really need a power feed. You can get a perfectly acceptable finish by just hand feeding it through. Yeah, if they were longer, you'd probably want a power feed. The last thing I was turning up that was longer was spacers, probably. So the finish, again, not, super important. I did not make these, incidentally. I don't have like a dividing head to lay them out. I don't have a mill. Would love a mill. Like a mill and a rotary table, and you could knock these up in like minutes out of some aluminium sheet. But I don't have that, so I'm going to show you something. It's something I would love to be able to make, but is way outside the capability of my lathe. This is an entire replacement front hub assembly for earlier Jag XJs, like the series Jags, so before the XJ40, before 1989-ish, something like that. And it converts what would be a regular, bolt-on wheel. It doesn't convert, completely replaces the bolt-on hub with a hub that will take a knock-on wheel with a center lock. So the drive pins screw in one set of holes, and the early Jags have the brake disc behind the hub, so not like modern cars where the disc just sits over the hub. The brake disc bolts behind the hub, that's why there's two sets of bolt holes. Something I would love to do, but cannot do on my equipment, so we'll have to draw up and sub out, is to make a set of those, but to suit XJ40 front spindles. Those are made by a guy on the Cobra Replica Forum in the UK. They're called Simon's Hubs, because his name is Simon. Unfortunately, he only makes a set for the XJ6. Now, if I can draw up a set for the XJ40, the later cars, I'm sure he can probably manufacture a set, but we'll need like 10 sets or something before we can get them made. So we'll see. Long-term plan. In the short term, what I have is adapters, knock-on adapters that bolt onto the front hubs and the back hubs. Back hubs are fine, except for the fact that it hits the brake calipers, hence these spacers. The front hubs makes the wheels stick out an extra, third of an inch probably, which means you have no dish on the front, which doesn't look great, which is why I'd like proper replacement hubs that could move everything in, get me more back spacing on the front, more dish basically on the front. Anyway, massive digression. 7 minutes of rambling about those things, these things. Now I guess I should put all this away and probably put the jaws back in my 3-drawer chuck that I took apart earlier to see if it would fit these things, but it doesn't because too small. And I have a bigger 3-drawer chuck, but I don't have a set of outside. And I've got inside and outside jaws for this, which, yes, let's pick up two number ones. So if you're not aware, the jaws are all numbered. They go in 1, 2, 3 into there. Yeah, it doesn't actually. The slots on this, are numbered. As long as you put them in the right order, they'll line up with the scroll. But anyway, the difference between inside and outside jaws. So, as you can see on that end, they are curved. Focus. Curved. Really, seriously, focus. The opposite way. And so, what line up with the scroll? So on this chuck, you can't take one set of jaws out and just turn them around and put them in the other way. The 4-jaw that I was just using is the same set of jaws. They are straight cut across for the scroll, because it's 4 separate screws that drive the teeth, so they only have to be straight, whereas this is a scroll chuck. Obviously it's one continuous spiral, and so the thing that gets driven by the spiral has to match it, which is why you need 2 sets of jaws. That was 2 minutes of ramble about chucks, a subject which I know precious little about, but apparently enough to ramble for 2 minutes. So that's enough for now, I think. I will tidy up and really learn to, I don't know, wear gloves or something. Although gloves and a lathe don't mix, because if it grabs the glove, it'll take your finger with it. Yeah, tidy up and put stuff away, because I have 2 more things to do today. Let's show you those while I'm here, shall we? I will take you handheld for a moment. Hold on. So, hey, ignore that mess. Number 1, this guy. It's an engine. It's 390 Ford FE V8. It's not quite a short block. It's got heads and cams. Rockers. No push rods, no intake, so it's kind of a short block. And it's going to Spain. Was one of my spares, and I was persuaded to part with it because there's a wedding to pay for. The other thing that I have to do today is framing that thing there. That is a welding table, and I'm quite excited. So perhaps that will be another video. Although it'll be a lot of me crawling around on the floor, and, you know, nobody wants to see that. So maybe not. Maybe. We'll see. That's all for now.